Hey shooters, welcome back to the Shooters Resource Channel. Today we're going to be looking at my Get Home bag. This is the larger of a group of bags that I have, and this one stays in my truck all the time. Before we get started, go ahead and take a second. Hit that like and subscribe button, support the channel. Alright, let's start out by looking at what I have in the outside pockets of the bag. So if we look at the very top portion, or the brain of the bag, this isn't a removable brain, but it does have a separate zipper pocket up here. And just to mention, this bag is a pretty nice bag. It's the Kelty Red Wing 50, and I really like it. And you might find that you need a larger bag, especially in the winter, because this bag looks pretty full. However, a lot of it is like clothing and blankets and things of that nature. So you'll see that in a second. But if we get into the brain part of this bag, this is my medical. I've got it right here on top, easy to get to and easy to explain to someone if I'm not able to get to it myself. So I've got a trauma kit right here by North American Rescue. This is their IPOC kit. It's removed from the wrapper. It's ready to go, and I'll share with you the contents in it. But essentially, it's got everything you need to stop major bleeding if you run into that. And for those of you that are shooting, hunting, or hiking, that's really important to have, is to be able to stop some bleeding. Plus, this could come in handy if you ever encounter a car wreck or if you're in one yourself. So it's good to have stuff like this in your vehicle. And even if you're not like an avid outdoorsman or someone that's just outside all of the time or doing a lot of sports, I recommend that you have some sort of bag in your vehicle that have the things you might need in case of an emergency. Medical is one of the more important ones. Then I've got a couple different types of wraps and rolls, and I probably could downsize these to smaller, but I just keep them in there because I find that throughout the year I'm constantly dipping into this bag and using stuff and then having to replenish it. So a couple different types of wraps and rolls there for medical, and then a spare tourniquet. I like to have at least 2 tourniquets with me, and I have a separate medical trauma kit in my vehicle that stays on my Gray Man Tactical Molly system for my truck. All right. So that's all that I've got in the brain. If we look at this first outside pocket here on the right side or left side of the bag, if you're wearing it, I've got my knife. This is a Mora knife. It's a great knife. I've used it this deer season to take care of my deer. It cuts through the skin really easy. It doesn't dull easy. It keeps a nice blade and or a nice edge, and it sharpens pretty easy too. And it's very inexpensive. So if you lose this knife, you're not going to be upset. But it's all around a quality knife, and you'll see a lot of good reviews out there by trustworthy people on bragging on these Mora knives. You don't have to have a $200 fixed blade knife to be successful. And this one's got a striker on there. I tested this striker. I've used it to start a few fires. You always want to make sure you test your gear. And this is one that's earned its place in my everyday bag. The other thing that I've got in this pocket is some 550 cord rope. This is braided. It's about 30 foot long, maybe a little longer than that. And it's just really useful. With it being braided like that, it takes a lot of strain off your hand if you're trying to pull heavy things like deer. That's what I've really used this for, is majority hunting. But it's very helpful, and I've cut off several pieces of it over the years as I needed it for just different small tasks. So that's all in that pocket. If we go to the other side, which would be your right hand side if you're wearing the pack, I've got some gloves, as well as I've got a little saw here, and this is really great for chopping down branches. I used it the other day to take the top part of a cedar tree down because it was in the way while I was hunting, but I've used it also to help set up camp, to cut some wood for fires. It's just great to have a little saw that's handy, especially if you don't have a hatchet or something else. But little saw is very lightweight, very handy. I also carry an ultralight rain cover in this pocket made by Osprey, but it's really light at 0.2 pounds, and it's a great way to keep your pack dry in inclement weather. All right, so that makes up what's in those pouches there. All right, let's get into the front part of this bag. I'm going to lay it down real quick. we're still in the fall, and sometimes in the evening we can still get some bugs and stuff. It's nice to have a little bug spray with you. This is silverware, so you always need some good silverware. This is actually a spoon and a fork, one on each side. It's got the can opener and all the other stuff, but really the spoon and the fork is just very, very useful. And I've got 2 of those, so that way if I've got some company, my son hanging out with me, something like that, we've both got our own utensils. Zip ties, always good to have. Just a few of them. And I replenish those from time to time as I use them. I've got a little crank flashlight as well as radio. And this thing works. It's a few years old, and I haven't ever had any problems out of it. It's nice to be able to crank it and then I actually get some radio. Let's see. And then it's also solar charged. All right. Of course, you need to find your way through the woods. A good compass is very important. I've known several people that have gotten lost. I've been lost in the woods. It's no fun. It can be really frightening as you start approaching dark and you can't find your way out. All right, I've got a little sewing kit. This is a great little tool to have. I've ripped stuff, ripped pants, ripped all kind of different things, ripped and tore my bag. So having a sewing kit is really nice to have, especially if you're on a multi-day trip. This is like a little admin bag, so it's got a lot of good things in here. That's just duct tape right there. It's nice. I just took a little piece of plastic and just wrapped it around there. It's a little plastic thing, so I got plenty of extra duct tape. I don't know how many times I've went into this bag and gotten this. You always want to make sure you replace it, but you know, you might go anywhere and just forget your charger, or you need a charger, and so to have a spare charger in there is really nice. And then I can plug this into that My Patriot Supply, or even into that hand crank little radio that I have, and charge my phone with either one of those as well. And as I mentioned, just a few pins, Sharpie marker, and shoe glue is really good to have. I mean, you can use it for other things too. It's essentially just like some rubbery material, but it's very handy to do shoe repair, and it's important to be able to do that. And then just some earplugs. Spare pocket knife. This is a Spyderco. I really like Spyderco. This is one of their more affordable versions. If I forget my pocket knife at home or something like that, I've always got a spare pocket knife in my bag in the truck, which is nice. Got a real small Gerber dime. It's a little multi-tool. It's got a little bottle opener, a couple little things on there, but I really like having a little small set of pliers. Sometimes if you're like boiling water in the fire or other things like that, the steel gets hot. It's good to have a little set of pliers to grab stuff with. And then it's just got, you know, a couple other little things, some small knives, just useful to have. And it doesn't take up a lot of room or weigh a lot. This has just got some different drink flavorings. I've got some coffee in there as well as electrolytes. I really like putting the electrolytes in the water as I'm hiking because I'm filtering the water, and you know, sometimes it can have a little bit of a taste to it. So the electrolytes help hide that. And plus, your body needs electrolytes. All right. That's all I've got on these external pockets. Now let's look at what we've got in the main compartment. So in my pack, I try to keep the things I use the most up top in the main compartment. So the first thing would be just a spare hat. This is my Bravo Company hat. It came with my Bravo Company upper. I really like this hat. It's been chewed on by the dog. It's been my lucky hunting hat. Just a great all-around hat. All right, so I've got my North Face Tri-Climate jacket. I bought this jacket 10 plus years ago, and it's still in great shape. I haven't had to do any fixes to it or anything, but it's a two-piece jacket. On the inside, it's got this little like puffer jacket, and this is a great jacket. It'll keep you warm. It does a really good job of blocking wind and things like that by itself, but on the outer shell, it's a rain jacket. And if you combine the two, it keeps you much warmer. And I've had it pretty much for any temperatures here in Georgia where I'm at. I can deal with them. And it does get cold. It does get below freezing here. And with this jacket and just, a shirt or something like that, I can really deal with most of the weather. But this does a great job of keeping the wind off of you, this outer shell, as well as rain. And then this is, and we'll look at all the contents inside here, but this is my waterproof bag. So this is from Sea to Summit. This is our lightweight bag. It's an 8-liter bag. It's pretty full, but anything I don't want to get wet, I want to make sure it doesn't get wet, I keep it in this bag right here. All right, let's look inside of the dry bag and we'll see what we've got in here. So we'll go ahead and get a few things out of the way. Let's get everything out. I was just recently kind of rummaging through this thing, so it's got a few things kind of out of order. But one thing to point out is I've got my warm food. So just some Wise dehydrated food, cheesy lasagna, apple cinnamon cereal. Nice to have, especially if you decide, like I might be out hunting and then I decide, hey, I'm just going to camp out here instead of driving all the way home and then back in the morning. I've got some warm food that I can cook for myself for both dinner and breakfast. Or if I'm going to go do some scouting and I end up, having to stay the night in the woods unplanned, I've got some food for that. Now this is part of my water filtration system. We'll get to that in a second. This is nice to have. This is a battery pack. It can be pre-charged or solar charged by 4 Patriots. Of course, and this stuff is normally on the top, but again, I've just kind of done some rummaging through here. But I've got some spare batteries for some of the flashlights you're about to see. So I have them just compartmentalized in this these Ziploc bags, but I've got 8 AAAs and 4 C123 batteries. And those are for these headlamps. So this is a really powerful headlamp that I've got by Streamlight. It's got 3 different settings. I've had this for several years. It's just been a really faithful and reliable light. I've used it to do work like painting cabinets or work on my vehicle in the dark. Again, just another great thing to have in your vehicle in a bag that always stays in there are some extra flashlights. You get a flat tire on the side of the road at night, you need to be able to see. But also, I might forget my hunting. If I'm hunting in the evening or in the morning and I got to get in and out through the woods in the dark, if I forget my flashlight at home, I've always got some good flashlights. This is a waterproof flashlight. I've had it in the downpour rain many times, and it's never steered me wrong. Then I've got a cheaper flashlight. This is just a gear light. It doesn't have the batteries in there, and that's on purpose. It's so that the batteries don't corrode it or anything like that. This is just kind of straight out of the pack. Just an inexpensive light. It's one I can give to a kid, or I can use it as just an admin light if needed. But I've got the batteries for it right there. And then I've got another light that's ready to go. This is another one that's been through the years. This has a red light on it, which is really nice in terms of moving through the woods with very low light or moving in the dark with low light. That red light is very good. It doesn't ruin your night vision. I've had this little headlamp right here for over 10 years, and it's been really reliable. It does very well. Here's the rest of my water kit. You've got to be able to filter water when you're out in the woods, in the wilderness. If you're going camping or anything like that, Sawyer is a great way to do it. I've used these and they work really well. You've got a flow direction there. If I were going on a known camping trip, a lot of times I might carry a backup filter just in case. But, I also have the ability to boil water. So I have, 2 ways to filter water. but the Sawyer hasn't let me down. It does a good job. All right, next up, I've got some spare clothes. So one important thing about clothes, well, I'll touch on this. This is just like a nice, cool rag. If you're hiking or something like that, it's just a very cool to the touch. If you wet it, it helps cool you down. You can put it on your neck, and you also can use it just to clean things off. It's just nice to have a little rag that's available. All right, then next up, we're getting into clothes. So I've got a spare pair of underwear. These are all the clothes. None of them are going to be cotton, because if you get wet wearing cotton, it will lead to hypothermia, especially in the fall and winter months when it's cool outside. The cotton's not going to dry. It's going to be very cold. It's always important to have non-cotton clothes available. I've been out on hunting trips several times, and I've gotten soaked. I've been in, just torrential downpours or instances where it's rained all day, and I had to change my socks like 3 times throughout the day because they're just so soaked. Even through my waterproof boots, it's miserable. And so to be able to, at the end of all that, change into a dry pair of clothes, it's super nice. So it could, but in terms of hypothermia, it could save your life. So it's important to do that. So these are just a pair of boxers that are polyester, then some nylon pants, and those have the zip-off bottoms. Those are by Columbia. So you can zip the bottoms off and turn them into shorts if you want to have some camp shorts. This is some thermal pants. They're really good. Those are synthetic as well. They keep you warm. I like to have an orange vest. Again, these are required in the state of Georgia when you hunt, but it's also good to have some blaze orange to draw attention. So if you were to get lost in the woods, or if you are working on the side of the road, it's important that you have high visibility. And so often as a hunter or just as an outdoorsman, I wear earth tone colors. So to have the ability to, and I've used this too to like mark, because I'll wear an orange vest when I go out into the woods. But let's say one time I shot a pig and it was nighttime and I was kind of turned around where I was in the woods, and I'm having to drag this 150-pound hog through the woods. And so what I ended up doing is I would drag him, and then I left him somewhere, and I took an orange vest. I had a spare orange vest in my backpack, which I've always carried ever since. And I tied that to the tree as high as I could reach up on the tree. And so what that did was that allowed me to find my way, the shortest path out of the woods, then go back, and instead of trying to find it while dragging the pig, then go back to my marked tree and recover the pig and then bring it back. So, there's just a million uses and reasons why you would want a high-vis marker. So, and that's another thing too is I'll often use this to put over my backpack. So if I'm wearing an orange vest, but my backpack's covering that orange vest, that doesn't help me with other hunters. So if I need to be visible, it's good to have an extra orange vest. I've got a polyester shirt from Columbia. And then I've got few pair of wool socks. And I've got two large pair of wool socks, and then a smaller pair for my son, for my younger son, in case he needs them. And then at the very bottom, I had some, this is just general medicine or medical type stuff. So you've seen the trauma kit that was up in the brain, but I keep this in the dry bag because I don't want it to get wet. But it's got everything from some really high grade eye drops to pills for upset stomach, diarrhea. If you're in the woods, if you're hiking and your stomach is upset and you're not able to retain your hydration, you're in trouble. So it's good to have those types of things. Ibuprofen, very important to have. Some TP, you got to have toilet paper. Sunscreen's important. And then the rest is just bandages, Band-Aids, those types of things. Important to have some alcohol wipes, other things like that. So that's what I keep inside the dry bag. And I have a second larger 10-liter bag. It's a little bit cheaper bag, but this is by Earth Pack. And again, this is just a dry bag. So anything you want to keep dry, you can put in here. This is also just an extra bag. I can use it as a smaller bag if I wanted to. It has a little strap on it, and I can just throw it over my shoulder or whatever and just go off with this bag, or use this bag to collect stuff. I can use it as a trash bag. I can use it for all kinds of different things. It's just convenient to have, and just when rolled up, it doesn't take a lot of room up in the pack. It's also something I can leave behind if I don't want it, if I want to get some more volume and cut down on weight. I've got a poncho here. So this is a military poncho. These things have a million uses. If you're not aware of them, you should check out some of the poncho videos online, and you can see you can make shelters with this. You can do all kinds of things with this, plus just keep yourself out of the weather. This is also something I can give to someone else. I can wear my North Face jacket. If somebody else doesn't have a rain jacket, it's raining on us, I have a poncho to give them. It works really well. So let's see. Got a couple bottles of water. You might wonder, hey, you know, why don't you have more than just 2 bottles of water in there? Well, in my truck, I always keep a flat of water, and I typically replenish it before it ever runs out. I drink a lot of water every day. I'm always going to the gym, or I'm going out to the range to do some practice. So I always need water, or just going into work or whatever. I like to have bottled water available. But I keep a couple extra in the pack so that if I just grab the pack, I have some water. Or if I run out in my truck or whatever, this is just another water source. I've also got a water reservoir right here, and this is just a little 1.5 liters or 2. It's a 2 liter water reservoir, and it works really well. Pretty inexpensive on Amazon. The pack did not come with one, but it has everything you need in terms of the right cuts and everything to run your tube, and a little holder for it. So, all right, speaking of water, next up I've got a water container here. This is just a steel water container I use to boil water. It's got a little lid on there. I can use it to hold additional water once I've found a water source. So this is just a reservoir, but it's really works well for boiling water. I also have this little clip. It allows me now, I can either hang this over the fire, I can set it at the edge of the fire, allowing the water to boil, and use my little pliers and pull this out of the fire. So this is a nice little clip right here. It actually, I think, is made to hold a fish's mouth open when you're fishing. All right, let's see what else we've got. So now I'm getting, well, I'll go ahead and grab my last thing that kind of has to do with water and fire. Then I have this little stainless steel cup. I've had this thing for a long time. It works really well. It's not a titanium cup, so there's a few lighter ones out there. It's just inexpensive, and it's just gotten the job done. Let's take a look at what I've got inside of my Stanley cook can. So again, this is just another option for boiling water, or I'll actually use this too for cooking some food. So when I first open it up, you'll see inside, this is all my fire starting stuff. A few different options inside of there. Now remember, I've got my main striker there on my Mora blade. So this will be my main striker right here. And then, in addition to that, I've got some stormproof matches, a few Bic lighters. One's got some extra duct tape on it. This is to strike matches on. And I've got a couple candles. These candles are just really nice to hold a flame, so I can light it, and it'll little teacup candle, and it'll keep a flame going for me. I can use it to light tinder, just all kind of different uses for that. Just create a small little light for any use. So pretty basic starting kit right there. I mean, it's just the Bic lighter is the main go-to. I'm not going to be sitting here, you know, using everything else. I stay in good practice with my striker, but at the end of the day, I'm going to run the Bics if I can. No reason to work harder than what you need to. And then just in here, I've just got a couple cups. So, and you can see that it's fairly clean there. Oh, sorry, this is another part of my fire starting kit. I forgot about this. These are cotton swabs, just covered in petroleum. So this is just a really easy tinder to get started. It will be, it burns for a while, and I've just used them several times, but it's just an easy go-to. And you've got to check these every once in a while. They will dry out. They'll still work when they're dried out, but they work best when you've just got the petroleum on there. They just burn for a long time, but it's a ton of petroleum packed in there. So just helps start the fires. And there we go. All right, next up is my shelter stuff. So on shelter stuff, I've got a little sleeping pad here. It's a pretty simple setup. A mosquito net, really important here in the southeast. We got a lot of mosquitoes. I've got a hammock tarp. This is Cuban fiber, so this was a pretty expensive tarp I bought some years back. Super lightweight. I think this weighs about 5 ounces. It's a really lightweight tarp and very strong. I've got some extra line as well as my tent stakes. They're a combination of aluminum as well as titanium. And then I've got my military poncho liner. And this makes for a great little blanket. Works really well, especially for like the temperatures around here. It doesn't take up a lot of room. I stuff it in the bottom of my sack. I don't even put it inside of the carrying case it came in. It actually helps fill a lot of the voids in my pack that would just be filled with air. But this also can go inside of that military poncho that I had earlier. It actually ties to it. And so you can wear that as an outer shell being the poncho and the poncho liner being the inner shell. But I normally use this to sleep on and cover up with. All right, one other thing that I do, sometimes that I rotate in and out depending on where I'm going or what I'm doing, is I will use a hammock. So this is a jungle net by Eno, and it has a built-in mosquito net. And so if either this might go in my son's bag if he's hiking, or it goes in my bag or whatever, but sometimes I'll rotate out. Instead of sleeping on the ground, I'll sleep in a hammock. And right here at the bottom, I've just got some emergency food. This is, over 3,000 calories. It lasts for 5 years. There's 9 bars inside of here. This is something you can eat. You don't have to cook it. And let's see, the last thing I got right here, like it was at the very bottom, this is an emergency bivvy, and I've got a couple emergency blankets crammed in there. This would be good if somebody was, had gotten wet and they might be dealing with hypothermia and you need to warm their body temperature up quick. Or if you have another person and you don't have enough blankets to go around, this could be an option for them to keep them warm. It doesn't take up a lot of room, and it's super lightweight. It's only a few ounces, so it's worth having in your bag. So there's an emergency bivvy. And that's what I've got. Those are the items. All right, shooters, I hope you enjoyed that. There's a lot of reasons why one might carry a bag with them every day or in their vehicle. Why do I do it? Well, I've been in some major car accidents. I've been lost in the woods for hours and almost spent the night and didn't mean to. I go on hiking trips. I go hunting often. I actually, like 12 years ago, was shot. I know that different things can happen that weren't planned. And then what have I learned since I've started carrying a bag with me all the time? Well, the majority of these items get used throughout the year. It's just nice to have them in the truck. You should consider putting together some preparations that you can keep with you in your vehicle. It's nice to go ahead and get a decent pack. I've got, like I mentioned, a 35 liter, a 20, I think this is a 27 liter, and then the 50 liter. And they all have their own purposes and times when one pack is better than the other. This thing's pretty big to be carrying around all the time with you. This is really good, though, for hiking and hunting. It's got a lot of features that are made for that. But these smaller packs are much better for daily use. They can have a lot of items that would be really handy for you too. Now, I'll probably do some other videos where I talk about what I carry inside of these smaller bags versus these bigger bags. These smaller bags can be limiting, especially as I mentioned in the winter months when you've got a lot of items that maybe are still lightweight, but they're very voluminous because they take up a lot of area in your pack. Because, you know, again, they're insulation type items like blankets and things of that nature. But all in all, I hope that you learned a few things today. I'm sure that there's some things that you have in your pack that I didn't show, and I want you to leave them in the comment section because I'm really interested. I'm always learning, and I also invite you, if you have any gear, you need to go out and use it. Make sure that it works. There are a lot of things that I had bought and used and learned that they weren't the right tool for the job, whether they weren't good quality or they just weren't good for what I was wanting, what I intended them for. And so they're not here today. But all of these items are things that I've used in the field. They worked when I needed them to, and I've got the links for all of them in the description. So go ahead and check them out. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you all, and as always, God bless.